In the village of Umande, the rains were both a blessing and a curse. People relied on them for their crops, their animals, and their very survival. But every child in the village was warned about the dangers of the storm spirits, the restless souls of ancestors who sometimes walked with the rain, striking down those who disrespected nature. No one feared the rain more than a boy named Kofi. As a baby, he had nearly drowned when a flash flood swept through the village. As a toddler, he had seen a man struck by lightning, his body left lifeless in the mud. Now, at 10 years old, whenever dark clouds gathered, Kofi would run into his hut, cover his ears, and refuse to come out. "Face your fears, Kofi," his father urged one evening, as thunder rumbled in the distance. But Kofi only shook his head. "The rain is not my friend. It is a monster." His mother knelt beside him and stroked his hair. "The rain is neither friend nor monster, my son. It is simply the rain." But Kofi did not believe her. One season, the drought came early. The fields cracked, the rivers shrank, and the villagers prayed for rain. Each evening, they gathered at the great tree in the village square, lifting their voices to the sky, pleading for relief. But the sky remained empty. Days turned to weeks, and the land suffered. Crops withered, leaving families hungry. The goats and cows grew thin. Even the elders, who had lived through many seasons, murmured anxiously. "We have angered the rain," some whispered. Finally, one evening, as the villagers prepared for another restless night, the wind changed. A deep, rolling sound came from the horizon. The sky darkened. The first drops fell. A joyful cry rose from the people. The villagers ran into the open, lifting their hands to the sky. They danced in the downpour, laughing, singing, catching water in their gourds. But Kofi ran. He ran past the huts, past the fields, all the way to the forest, where the trees shielded him from the storm. His heart pounded as he crouched beneath a large fig tree, waiting for the rain to pass. Then he heard a voice. "Why do you run from me, child?" Kofi gasped and turned. In front of him stood a tall, glowing figure, wrapped in a cloak of mist. His face shifted like water, sometimes young, sometimes old. His eyes were deep and endless, like storm clouds before a downpour. Who are you?" Kofi stammered. "I am the spirit of the rain," the figure said. "I have come to ask you why you fear me." Kofi's legs trembled. "Because you destroy things. You drown villages, strike people with lightning, wash away homes." The spirit's voice was calm. "And yet, do I not also give life? Do I not feed the crops, fill the rivers, and cool the burning earth?" Kofi hesitated. But what about the floods? The storms? Why do you bring those?" The spirit knelt, touching the earth. "When you are angry, do you not shout? When you are sad, do you not weep? The earth too has feelings. Suffers when it is abused, when the rivers are drained, when the trees are cut down. And so, sometimes I come not just as a blessing, but as a warning." Kofi's eyes widened. "A warning?" The spirit nodded. "The storms come when balance is lost. When people forget to respect nature, I must remind them of my power." Kofi thought of his village. He thought of the trees they had cut for firewood, the rivers they had dirted, the waste they had left in the fields. Had they caused their own suffering? The spirit's form began to fade. "You fear me because you do not understand me, little one. But if you listen, if you learn, you will see that I am not your enemy." Then the spirit was gone. The rain slowed, then stopped. Kofi stood in the silence, his mind racing. For the first time, he did not feel afraid. Instead, he felt curious. The next morning, he returned to the village. His parents ran to embrace him, scolding him for running away. But Kofi only said, "I must speak to the elders." That evening, Kofi stood before the village and repeated what the spirit had told him. Some laughed. A child speaking to a spirit? Impossible. But the elder, a wise woman named Mama Ru, only smiled. "Perhaps the boy has seen what we have ignored for too long." Mama Roo then spoke to the villagers. For many seasons, we have taken without giving back. We have cut more trees than we planted. We have dirted the river with waste. We have prayed for rain but cursed it when it came too strong. Have we lost our balance? Silence fell. People shifted uncomfortably, glancing at one another. Finally, the chief of the village, a broad-shouldered man with deep lines on his face, sighed. The boy may be young, but his words carry wisdom. We must change. And so the villagers did change. They planted more trees than they cut. They cleaned the river. They gave thanks for the rain, not just in times of need, but always. They built raised pathways to protect their homes from floods. They learned when to harvest rainwater and when to let the earth drink freely. And Kofi? He never ran from the rain again. In fact, he became the village's first rain watcher, the one who studied the clouds, read the winds, and understood the balance between blessing and warning. As he grew, he passed his knowledge to others. He taught the children of the village how to listen to the rain, how to read the sky, how to respect the land. And when the storms came, Kofi stood in the rain, arms outstretched, whispering, "I hear you now.